If you are looking for best practices, you probably don't understand the complexity of your domain or of what you are trying to learn. Welcome back to Think Design Work Smart. I'm Alex Bolboaca and I'm coming at you from the Mozaic Works studios. And today, what I have for you is a discussion of best practices versus emergent practice. This comes from a common thing that happens to me. We often get requests for custom trainings, trainings that we create for organizations for specific things. And often part of the request is best practices for a specific domain. For example, product discovery or software architecture or things like that. And I understand the reflex. The reflex is very normal. People want to look for best practices. They believe that best practices exist. It's such a common term, and it's something that you look for, that you can search for. It's also very easy to monetize in a way because you can easily write articles on best practices for microservices, best practices for event-driven architecture, and so on. But the thing is, most of these domains do not actually have best practices. And let me explain why. I found an article when I was documenting for this topic, and it summarizes really well what I was trying to do, so I'm just going to go through it. The article is written by Marcus Genal on his blog, Ruminations on Systemic, Economic and Social Change. And it's called How to Strengthen Innovation, Good Practice versus Emergent Practice. And maybe it sounds weird that this is an economics and social blog that talks about a topic that I believe applies to software development. But trust me, everything will make sense in a moment. So let's go a little bit through this, because basically it's about Kinevin and it's about the different types of domains that exist. The last week of June, I had the privilege of attending a 3-day training event with Dave Snowden, founder of Cognitive Edge and mental father of the Kinevin network. For me, this was a great experience, and although I had read a lot of stuff about around complexity also by Dave, there were still many new insights I got. Some things were new, others just became clearer. One thing that I knew, but that was becoming more pronounced during the training, is the differentiation between best, good practice and emergent practice. In the order domain on the right side of the Kinevin framework, cause and effect relationships are clear, if also in the case of the complicated domain, not necessarily obvious. So if you are not familiar with Kinevin is a way of classifying problems or problem domains. It's a little bit difficult to explain. And it has the simple domain where you have a clear relationship between cause and effect. And where yes, you do have best practice, because whenever you have a clear relation between cause and effect, you know what to do and what not to do in order to produce the desired effects. It should be fairly easy because it's something you can reproduce. Probably the simplest example I can give here is mechanics, right? You know, if you drop something, it will speed up and it will eventually hit the ground. So it's pretty much this, and you can measure it, you know, there's a cause, there's an effect, you know how fast it will go, and so on. It's very predictable. Now, other domains are not as easy to predict, but once you have a cause and effect, you can pretty much figure out best practices in time, even though you don't have an equation to describe the whole thing. The problem is, okay, with complicated, you get a little bit of a, less relationship, but in the complex domain, you have no relation between cause and effect. No relation between cause and effect. An effect can have multiple causes, the same effect. A cause can have multiple effects. It's very difficult to predict what will happen. So in this domain, you kind of dance with the system. You try something, you see how it reacts. You try, if it goes into the right direction, you do more of what you did. If it goes into the wrong direction, you do less of what you did. And that's kind of how you deal with it. So let's go further. Cause and effect relationships don't shift, and we can always expect the same result when we do the same thing. This is why in these domains we can do results-based planning and management. We can define the results we want to achieve and develop a way to get there. In the simpler case, there is one obvious right solution, the best practice. In the complicated case, there might be multiple ways to achieve the intended results, and we might have to employ analysis or experts to find them. But once we have them, they always work. This is why we have then called good practice. Okay, so in the complicated domain, you will find the experts that can figure out and give you good practice. And this is common for many domains. Again, in the complex domain, cause and effect relationships are not fixed and only discernible in hindsight. And even then, we cannot be sure what really caused the specific change. It's often a combination of things that play together in a unique way. We cannot predict how the system is going to react to a specific intervention. We often don't have a clear idea about the problem, symptoms, causes, root causes, etc., nor do we have a clear and unambiguous idea of what a good result looks like. There are multiple perspectives on that. Additionally, we often do not have the necessary evidence to base our decisions on, but have to use rules of thumb or base our decisions hunches. Thus, it becomes difficult to plan for a specific result. What we can do in this situation is to manage a project in a way so that it stimulates patterns to emerge in the system. What I was telling about. It's called amplify or dampen. So try something. If the system moves in the right direction, amplify it. If it doesn't, dampen it. We can then dampen patterns that we don't like and stimulate patterns that we like or amplify. This is then called emergent practice, as these solutions fully emerge out of the context and are hence adapted to it. Solutions that emerge out of the context on the one hand work better than the ones that are imposed from the outside, and on the other hand can lead to the results that we could not have imagined before. A consequence of the strong context specificity of complex systems is that we cannot copy best or even good practice from another system, using our system, and expect it to work. And then the article goes into describing the impact on economic system. But let's talk about this thing in the context of software development. So in the context of software development, we have some simple domains. Simple domains are usually related to code, right? So what query to write to get a specific result. It's either in simple or complicated. If it's a simple query, database query, okay, you do select star from users. You get all the users. That's perfectly fine. Where it can get complicated is when you have a complex query and it goes through many tables, you need to join them and so on, and you want to optimize the performance. And sometimes you know how to do that, sometimes you need to call an expert to do that. And they will know what to do. Add some indexes, reorganize your query a little bit, look at the execution plan and figure out how to restructure it so that it's working better. And you can find similar examples for code, because code is basically cause and effect, right? You write something, you execute, you see what's happening. It's fairly simple. But then you get into complex domains. And complex domains are, for example, an agile team. An agile team is a complex adaptive system. It evolves in specific ways, and you want it to evolve in a way that is adapted to its surrounding environment, which means you cannot copy practices from one agile team to another agile team, because they will not work. So this is why this is emergent practice. Each team will do its own thing. Another place where this applies is, let's say you're doing product discovery. Your product is unique. You're trying to discover where it fits in the environment of the market. What techniques should you use? What are the best practices to use in order to achieve product market fit? Well, I have some news for you. There are no best practices. There's only emergent practice, because you're operating within your own environment. So of course, there are a few things you can start from. You can do some interviews and see what the results are. You can do some usability tests. You can do some prototypes. You can do a number of different things. You can do Google Ads campaign and see how many people click on that link, and then how many people register to receive news about your product that doesn't exist yet. So you can test for various things, for interest, for value, for usability, for feasibility. You can test for all these kinds of things. But which are the practices that will help you get to product market fit? We have absolutely no idea. Nobody has. And the thing is, you will not find them written in a book. And you'll probably start for some practices that exist. But the best thing you can do is to go to emergent practice, which means figure out which are the things that help you get closer to your goal. Try to do more of those. Figure out which are the things that don't help you get closer to your goal. Do less of those and move on. And this is what emergent practice is about. And in doing so, you might end up creating, mixing and matching sets of practices that work simply for you. And this is why, my friends, you usually cannot ask for best practices when your domain is complex. And given how software development is today, we kind of figure out what to do in the simple domain. We kind of figure out what to do in the complicated domain. So, okay, maybe you want to be an expert in something. So if you want to have expertise in a specific domain, yes, absolutely, you'll get into good practices. Rarely you'll have best practices. Sometimes you'll have good practices. But for things that matter for the success of your business and your product, you'll probably need emergent practices. So try to think about it in this way. What you really want most of the time is not to learn best practices, but to get the mechanisms right in order to find the emergent practices that fit within your environment as fast as possible. And this is what we train for in our learning programs. Thank you kindly for the view, and until next time, remember to think, design, and work smart. See you next Saturday.